Hello, welcome everybody. Welcome to this episode of Chrysalis on the Couch, and welcome to our YouTube channel, Chrysalis on the Couch. My name is Lorna, and I'm here today with Elly, who is our social media manager, and Tina, who is studying with us at Chrysalis, studying hypnotherapy, and I understand enjoying it immensely, Tina.
Yeah.
So, welcome to everybody. I hope you enjoy this episode. This episode is called Reality TV, the good, the bad, the ugly. Okay. It's a theme that we looked at before. Perhaps you've already sort of linked into the episode that we did before, but we did really feel that there's so much more. There's so much more to say, and there were some themes which we didn't have time to explore there, which we'd like to explore today. So if you are enjoying this episode, then do remember, please, to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so already. There's many more episodes and many more episodes coming soon as well. So, okay. Over to us. So reality TV, what does it mean to us? First of all, let's define it, shall we? So Elly, what does reality TV
Sure.
do?
I think reality TV is anything that's not dramatized with a script. I think you could even, maybe not a talk show either, but something that it's just meant to show sort of what the reality of someone's life is when funnily enough, when the cameras are off, even though the cameras are on and we can all see it. So I've had a couple conversations sort of in following up from the last episode that we did on TV programs that grow social awareness, conversations with Tina and conversations with a couple other coworkers who had watched it and thought it was really interesting, especially with the timing of Big Brother coming back this year after it has had quite a hiatus. And it kind of brought me back to thinking of, I guess, I don't know what year, was it early 2000s when Big Brother started or late 90s? And sort of it being such a really interesting thing. And I remember I was a teenager at the time, and in the US, Big Brother started and the whole family got together to watch it because we just didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
We didn't know what it was supposed to be like. And how at the time it seemed like people were a little bit more, they didn't know that their lives were going to just sort of blow up in the media with all this media attention. And so they seemed to be a little bit more real at the time.
Yeah.
But how it's really progressed over these last 20, 30 years of reality TV, where, now things like Big Brother coming back, I'm really interested to see what that is like, but there are so many other different reality TV shows and so many different types of reality TV shows. I don't know, Tina, did you want to say anything about that?
About the Big Brother, because when they announced that it was coming back, they had on one of the morning shows, they were interviewing 3 previous contestants.
Oh, interesting.
But 3 of the ones sort of back in the day when they wasn't looking for fame and they wasn't doing it to get famous. Yeah. They were just doing it because it was a bit of fun. And it was interesting to watch it because what they were saying, they were being really honest, is they just said, we're just so glad that we did it before the blow up of social media, and things like Instagram and TikTok and all those different platforms that do serve good, but also, the amount of followers you've got to get now and the amount of pressure that's probably going to be on somebody that's going to be going in to a show like that when they come out.
Yeah.
And to maintain that level.
That's a really interesting thing, actually, isn't it? Because I think that, reality TV can mean different things. So, for me, reality TV, is some of the actually sort of, quieter programs, if you like, which I can come back to. But, in some ways, I think that, one of the issues that people really have to deal with, and I agree with you, Tina, is is what's happening outside of the environment and what's happening on social media and so on. And, we know that, we know that, there can be sort of a certain way that we find ourselves behaving on social media, which can be sort of, quite negative and judgmental sometimes. And, which is obviously clearly an aspect of human nature, and an aspect that we, that we kind of work to push against in therapy and in counselling, where that the whole idea of the counselling environment is to create a supportive and non-judgmental environment, so that people then can flourish and be who they really are, and to recognize what's important to them and go in that direction. And here we are then sort of almost perhaps finding people in a total reverse situation, where trying really, really hard to not get that criticism, to be what people want to see, to be loved and to be liked, and to have to kind of engineer a personality, which must be overwhelming and incredibly difficult. And obviously some people manage it really well, but I think it takes very specific tools and a great deal of the right support for people to really be able to, I don't know if it's separating out the two, separating out a social face and and the normal day-to-day face.
Yeah.
What do you think?
That's really, really, I think social media has completely changed humanity. I think it changed the way that we engage with each other in person, and that we engage with each other just in general, because we're doing less in person. And obviously that was really heightened by the pandemic we've all just been through, where we weren't allowed to see each other, or we didn't feel safe seeing each other in person. And so, we kind of leaned into social media a little bit more. And I think it's become a really dangerous thing. And I'm seeing more and more of my friends, I'm in my 30s, so more and more people like me who kind of grew up with social media, like it grew up with us, who are stepping away from it completely because it's bad for their mental health, and taking sort of that stand. I'm going to get off TikTok because it wastes my time, or I'm going to get off Instagram because I just can't handle the criticism or the arguments on Facebook. And there are really good things about all of these different apps, and there are also really bad things about all of these different apps. And maybe that's a whole other episode. We can talk about social media. But I think the addition of social media to these reality shows has definitely contributed to some of the ugly of reality TV, and how people cope with the limelight and cope with being so famous, because there's just this added level of criticism,
Yeah, and that's it's a very interesting thing, isn't it? Because we can say, well, is it the vehicle, or is it again, is it an aspect of human nature that when we take away the sort of the actual face-to-face contact, when we've got all those nuances of responses that you can miss, certainly on something that you type onto a social media page, you're getting different feedback. It's a negative side of our human nature, if you like, that give us the platform and we'll use it. And that's kind of it's a really it's a fascinating thing.
I was just going to touch on the effects of what reality TV can do when I think someone is thrown into such an extreme environment that in a way is like caged caged animals, maybe, I don't know, which makes you feel a bit suffocated sometimes anyway, I can imagine, especially for humans. But I recently watched Love Island. Mainly my partner likes it, so I was saying to Lorna earlier that as a way to spend a little bit of time together, I thought, well, you know what, just watch it and try and not be too opinionated during it, because I find myself when I'm watching it, I'm like, oh no, I can't, I just have to turn it off, can't watch it, because I don't like to, I feel like I'm fueling the fire of what reality TV is by just watching it sometimes. But I watched it from an observation perspective, and what I noticed, there was a young man in there, and I was watching his mental health being really affected, and he wasn't coming across very well, and I don't feel that was his fault entirely, because what was interesting, and I think I was able to spot that there was something a little bit deeper. Well, in the end, he decided to take himself out of the show, which was very mature of him.
Yeah.
Maybe it was advised. Who knows? But when he came out, it was then shown that he has ADHD. So what if a viewer didn't know that? They could be trolling him already, or having this opinion of him based on what they were seeing. But in reality, he's got a condition that he probably struggles with, and that was the way he was expressing it in this environment. So and I just really struggled to watch it, and I felt a lot of compassion for him.
Yeah, I mean, that's really interesting, isn't it, Tina? Because as soon as you said that, it sort of reminded me of so go back a couple of hundred years, or I don't even think it's that far, where it was kind of entertaining for people to go to institutions and to observe the crazy behavior that people have. And how we look back on that and think that's just really awful, but actually it's not that difficult to actually recreate something similar. And it also reminds me of psychological experiments, which we know would never get ethical clearance these days. So for example, some of these, if you haven't learned about them already, you will be so Solomon Ash's conformity experiments, but the one that springs most to my mind is the Stanford prison experiments, where where a bunch of students were basically observed if they were put into an environment together, and half of them pretended to be prison guards and half of them were assigned to be prisoners, and then it was observed how they treated each other, and they had to stop the experiment really quickly because it was all going really badly wrong and people's health was suffering. Now that would never get ethical clearance today, and there's a whole load of others that wouldn't. But isn't it interesting how we can kind of find that we can ethically clear something for entertainment, as long as people are giving informed consent and are told, well, this is what you're setting yourself up for and you can stop. And but it's an interesting thing.
It really is. Yeah, it's a strange one, reality TV. I've never quite got to grips with it, but there are so many shows out, and there are some good and there are some bad, and then there's lots of in-betweens. But that's been the one recently. I was looking at, there was some shows. I'm just going to have a little look on. I wrote some notes, but my phone keeps going off, so I keep wanting to. With for example, like Towie, Made in Chelsea, The Only Way is Essex, which is another reality TV show. Made in Chelsea, all these ones, when they came out, it was very novel. And then Geordie Shore, just watching a bunch of people get drunk and just completely embarrass themselves. And the thing is, what I'm seeing now, fast forward 10 years on, those people who are still, on TV, they regret some of the stuff they did. And of course they go into, because they were being filmed while they were completely, intoxicated. None of us really want a memory of those things, and sadly, these are never going away for them.
Well, I mean, that is another thing, isn't it? But I mean, in a way, I mean, again, sort of, the whole idea of therapy is to help us to not regret past experiences. It's just like, okay, well, just accept. It's like, okay, I was drunk, I was on camera, this is what happened, And if other people have got an opinion about that, then so be it. That's for them. So that's the ideal. Fortunately, most of us have a small bunch of those key experiences that that are quite private, really, or only a few people, or it was only the friends that we were with that were also drunk and behaving badly. time that know of this. But now it's okay, well, it's out there, it's permanent. It's, it might pop up again in 10 years time and 10 years after that. And, it's something that's it's out of control, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's out of somebody's personal control. That's the thing about social media. You can put a message somewhere and think, oh, I didn't mean to write that. And it's just too late. It's too late. It's there. It's there, it's out. If people want to pick it up, they can.
Yeah. Well, what are some things that you guys really like about reality TV? Are there things that you watch that feel encouraging or, enlightening in some way, in a positive way?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's loads, actually.
Yeah.
So, one that I absolutely love, which is a different kind of reality TV, is the repair workshop.
That's good.
So
I've seen a couple episodes of that. My husband loves it.
Yeah, which is just, first of all, it's quite emotional because people bring in sort of, treasured objects that really have a sentimental meaning for them. But, these objects are quite often, broken, thought beyond repair, like in a terrible state, nothing like, they should be. And there is this bunch of experts that are just so amazingly skilled, who just take these objects and, whoever needs to do the expert job, whether it is the leather work or the mechanics or, restoring a painting or, lots of teddy bears is a big thing as well. And these people are just so lovely, and they sit down and they just restore on screen this object back to, better than, anybody ever remembers it. And then they present it back to the people who brought it in. And, it's just amazing to see the care they put in and the skill and, and everything else. I love that. And, and there's a few other programs that are about restoring things and finding old stuff and working out, what it means and what it is. Those I love.
Yeah, I quite like, there's one called Extraordinary Portraits, and it's Tiny Temper. He does the presenting for it. And it's, I think it's BBC One, BBC Two, really good program, only recently been on. And it's where you get, just let's say regular person, and that person has a really, really deep story where they quite possibly have been into several foster homes and didn't have the guidance that a lot of people get, and passed from different foster homes until he then landed in the right foster home that didn't abandon him. And this is just one that I'm remembering that I watched recently. And he turned his life around in the sense that he didn't want to go down the same road as his parents that put him into foster care. He didn't want children at that time. He wanted to meet somebody. He wanted to give back. So he's gone into a career of caring. What is he doing? I think he's more of a mentor for young people. Cool. So really rewarding job. Anyway, someone must have picked up on this story when they were doing the research, and so they come in, and then you've got this. So where the portrait comes in is that you have this artist who also has a background similar. So you've got these two completely different people with, not the best starts in life, that have completely transformed their lives. And then they come together to create a portrait. So then the one with the foster going on with that person, the one that was in foster care, he is the one that's sitting for the portrait. And then the artist is painting him. And then you see the process of what they're feeling, what they're going through. And then at the end, there's the reveal. And the reveal is this portrait, and the quality of the work of these artists are amazing. But the emotion that it brings up, I mean, I was just in tears just watching that, because of the journey this young person had gone through, and then the journey the artist had gone through, and then seeing this collaboration together to create something that will be with both of them forever. And it was just beautiful. So Extraordinary Portraits, really good show.
That sounds amazing.
It's lovely.
I'm gonna look that up. I really love I mean, I haven't gotten as into the Great British Bake Off. I love the Great British Bake Off, but I haven't watched all of the series. But we really love those at our house. Really love those sort of competition shows that have to do around art and food, you know?
Yeah.
So the Great British Bake Off, the Great Pottery Throwdown has been a recent discovery. And we watched all 5 seasons that were available on all 4. And just absolutely fell in love with it. And I found myself almost weepy during every episode. One of the judges is this like real tall, like kind of burly guy, kind of, you know, stocky but tall, just solid. And he's this, you know, clay artist. And he's just got such a presence, like a calm but strong presence. And he's always crying. It's just amazing because it's not what you expect. When he sees something that's just really beautiful, he'll be like just in tears and then say something like, it's just bloody brilliant. And everyone's like crying and laughing at the same time. And it's so encouraging to see people just, I mean, it's a competition, but it's less about beating the other people than it is about just really supporting each other. I find that with the Great British Bake Off as well. And then there's the sewing bee, which I've watched here and there. But the pottery one has just been like the one that we really love to watch at home, and kind of got us through some, you know, like end of lockdown sort of thing last spring while we were sort of no, it wasn't last spring. We were fine last spring, but yeah, we watched it in the spring and it was just great. I just loved it.
Yeah, I love some of those programs as well. I don't watch a lot of TV and I don't get to see them often, but I know exactly what you mean. And there is, you know, there's a totally different vibe to them, isn't there? That it is very supportive, it is very emotional, and it's very transformative as well. You know, and actually, it's, you know, it's just kind of, you know, completely enlivening to just see what people can produce, you know, the ideas that people have, the creativity there, and the skills and the talent of, you know, with just, you know, a few pieces of fabric or a lump of clay or something, so you know, people can produce the most amazing things. And yeah, those programs I think are really inspiring. And it's kind of interesting, isn't it, that we're talking about, you know, how you know, one of the things that makes these programs popular, whether we're talking Big Brother or whether we're talking the Great British Bake Off, is that, you know, it links into our emotions, and, you know, and different emotions, and the program that I caught it once, and then I've never been able to watch it again because, you know, it terrifies me. Is Naked and Afraid. I don't know if you've ever caught that one. So but as far as I can work out, I might have the story a little bit wrong, but 2 people who don't know each other are sort of, you know, basically dumped in this, you know, completely hostile environment with nothing, not even clothes, and you know, and they have to survive. They have to survive, and they have nothing. And you know, and this environment is basically, you know, it's got snakes, it's got alligators, it's got, you know, it's got poisonous plants, it's got all kinds of insects, it's got, does it have water? They don't know. Is there anything to eat? They don't know. And there are just these cameras sort of following these people, you know, kind of running for their lives through the jungle. And
that sounds risky.
I can't watch this.
No.
I can't watch this.
I don't think I can do that either.
No, I don't think I can. No. That's too real, that is. I don't want to see someone get bitten by a snake with no clothes on, and then, you know,
exactly. That is the real fear one. You know, You know, we've got the compassion, we've got the joy, we've got the excitement, we've got the, you know, we've got the kind of, you know, almost the kind of baying for blood in the arena type ones as well. This one for me is just pure fear.
Yeah.
Another one that's springing to mind is DNA Families. I think it's something like DNA Families. Davina McCall. does or used to do the presenting for it. I can't remember if she does it with somebody else, but it's where like a long lost family, it could be called Long Lost Family. And I think that is such a beautiful show, because you've got, you know, there's this one person that for some reason they just, something inside them, they feel there's a sibling out there, but they just can't understand. They feel a connection to something, but no one's really clarified it or confirmed it. So I think they just never stop believing until a show like this comes about, and then, you know, within, you know, the space of however long, they're reunited. Well, not reunited, they're united with somebody that they never knew about, that is their sibling, and they've lost their parents. And all of a sudden they've got a sibling. I mean, that is just amazing. Wow. And to see, the love and the connection and how alike they look, but they lived on other sides of the globe. And it's just, that's a nice reality TV show.
Really cool.
Yeah, it's, you know, I mean, and that's a good thing of social media, isn't it? Is, you know, the amount of connection, contacts, the amount of research, the amount of information that is out there that can be linked into. It's like, well, how would I ever have found this person? I would not have done. You know, without, you know, it's, you know, otherwise, you know, what people are down to kind of, you know, writing letters to certain agencies, and, you know, people are kind of trawling through files or whatever, and then social media and TV and so on opens all of this out. It probably brings issues as well. I mean, again, it's, you know, it's you know, I mean, long term, you know, how do those relationships develop or not develop?
We don't see.
And, you know, and is everything good, or does it come with, you know, lots of stuff that needs to be worked through? And then again, you know, the actual program is there, and if it hasn't turned out to be a good experience for people in the end, that program is still there, that can still pop up at any time. So it's, you know, it's still complicated, isn't it?
Very, very, because, you know, having siblings can be complicated, or families can be complicated in general, and that's when you know them. So, you know, to have this new family and then all these questions, especially maybe for the one that was given up, if it's that story, you know, what questions that person must have. But it's just reminded me of one show which was lovely, where and it is very emotive, because it was an older lady. I think she was probably in her 80s, and she, back in the day, because she was unmarried, she had to give that child up. So the child wasn't, you know, the child was loved, wanted, but she couldn't keep the child because of authorities, and they just take the child. And she searched her whole life for this child, never forgetting about this child that she wanted, that was taken from her. And then years later, when she does with a show like this, they track that child down, and that child knew it was adopted. So it's not like it didn't know where, you know, it knew that there was a mother out there, father out there, and the reunited, you know, is heartwarming, because she wanted, you know, it's just that connection, and to know that you know, you didn't get to the end of your life without that story being, that chapter being closed, essentially. You know, I thought that was
healing in a way.
Very.
So there is good.
Very good.
So, you know, I mean, I guess at the end of the day, it is, you know, a lot of this is subjective as well. So, you know, I mean, there are obviously there's definitely something to be said of, you know, what's not reality TV. I guess what I mean by what's not reality TV is when people are acting parts, and they know they are acting parts. It's like they're an actor, and they've taken on a role, and, you know, and people will still have their say about, you know, who's doing what on Coronation Street or EastEnders or whatever, but it's the character, it's not the person. And so they've got the distinction there, that, you know, what is not reality TV, but it's, you know, but it's, you know, how people treat it, I guess, is, you know, if it is reality, what am I trying to say here? It's like, so it's, you know, how people go into it, what expectations are, what they get from it is I would guess, people who appear on the repair workshop, who bring in their treasured, grandma's teddy, are not expecting to, be thrown into, celebrity world.
Right.
They just want teddy repaired, and they just, and they're just happy to be on TV showing their excitement when he is.
Yeah.
Whereas, if you're going into it with, as you said in the beginning, Tina, wanting this to be, your moment, and this being a solution for people's issues, or their loneliness or their distress or whatever. Yeah, that's a different thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think a lot of time, if somebody already goes into an environment that's the unknown, that if they already have some underlying anxiety, maybe that hasn't been treated, or abandonment issues that haven't been addressed, or they don't even know that they're there. I think when possibly from observation, you see that they're thrown into this environment, and it just brings out those emotions that have probably been pushed down. And I just find that really hard to watch sometimes, because you feel a bit powerless to these people, and it is sad. And then a lot of the time, when they do come out of these environments, you do hear about the stories, about the background, and then there's a bit of an understanding. But I do follow up things like that, because if it's touched something within me, I'll normally do a follow-up to clarify whether whatever I was feeling was right. And if it is, I think, okay, now I understand why they were behaving like that, rather than judge them, and but I don't think many people do. So many people would then go on to social media and just troll them. And that's where the problem starts, because then that would then reinforce the emotion that they were probably feeling in that environment. And it's just a cycle, that I think a lot of them struggle to get out of. And yes, but unfortunately, Elly, it does feel like a genre that's definitely here to stay, but maybe it will develop and adapt and become something much stronger, and or maybe the pull of the intrigue and the being allowed to kind of be quietly judgmental to somebody who we've never met and never will meet is just too strong for some people.
Well, I can just hope that there will be more of these shows that really, I think, make me want to cherish them, like more of the happy competition shows where it's about the arts or food, and it actually gives something to society, and it's not a competition about money per se, but just people really coming together to do their craft, or maybe just more of those will flourish. That show you mentioned about, was it Extraordinary
Portraits?
That sounds incredible. And I just hope to see more about that, that actually really enhance our lives and enhance the way we see each other, and bring us closer together, in a positive way.
Definitely. Just touching on a show, I don't know if either of you have watched this one. I'd say it's quite an interesting, quite a funny concept, but Naked Attraction. Anybody watch that?
I have heard about it.
Yes, me too.
That has got to be the strangest concept of a show I've ever heard, and whoever came up with it, I don't know.
This seems like what Lorna was saying about it being ethically, like if this was in a research scenario, there's probably no way that would be, get ethical approval, right?
No. It's just, it's a little bit odd, because you've got these, I think, is it 4 contestants, and they all go into it knowing they're going to get naked. So you've got, let's just say 4 men, and then a contestant who gets to pick which man they want. And but they never get to see the face. The face is at the end. So it's not really based on their personality, what's underneath the skin, what they look like. It's literally, well, we'll just see your I don't know, your chest or breast if it's a woman, and then we'll just see your private parts, and it literally, and then they have to make a comment about it. Oh, and I'm just thinking, what? And then they have to pick which one they like based on the body from the neck down, and then they get to see the face after I think they've picked. But then the person who's picking has to go and get undressed as well, so then they pop off, and then you've got these two people who are completely naked that go on a date, and at the end, when we have caught a show, because I tend not to watch that one because I'm like, oh, but at the end it'll say they never saw each other again, you know, the date went well, but
yeah, that seems to happen a lot, actually. That does seem to happen a lot with dating shows. That's like, well, yes, and they mean to meet, but they haven't yet. Yeah, that sounds fascinating, Tina.
I definitely, it's one to watch. It's one to watch to
like one time
develop an opinion, to kind of go, what's that all about? I mean, and what message are people receiving who are watching it? Because aren't we taught really to, you know, to not be so shallow and superficial and judge people on what they look like and try and get to know the person? This is the complete polar opposite.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. There's always opposites, isn't there?
Yeah.
There's always a kind of rebound, and you know, which is always something to remember. I think we're going to have to leave things on that note.
Yeah.
So, but yes, so you know, leave us all with you know, with the idea that maybe we just have to take a look at this show because it sounds so fascinating. Yeah, so I think we're going to have to wind down. But you know, for people watching, thank you so much for tuning in, and do remember, please, you know, if you're liking our episodes, then do press that like button, do subscribe to our channel, and got much more to come. And thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you from Elly, thank you from Tina, thank you from me.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.